Welcome back, BTM 440. All right, let's jump right into week 12 because honestly, this is a massive topic. Today, we're unpacking the explosive intersection where fintech meets cyber threats, secure development, and the giant regulatory web trying to keep it all from falling apart. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the ABCD of fintech, then hit the application threat landscape, move right into building security with DevSecOps, and finally navigate those heavy regulatory challenges. Part 1, the ABCD of fintech, the reward of innovation. Let's get into it. So think about it. Technology hasn't just tweaked traditional banking, right? It's completely disrupted the whole shebang. Fintech isn't about taking an old, clunky analog process and just making it digital. It's about integrating tech directly into financial services to create entirely new business models. By using things like APIs and web-based solutions, we're automating some incredibly complex tasks. We're talking instant fund transfers, real-time spending analysis, seamless loan applications, making financial services just way more accessible and efficient for everyone. And this brilliantly illustrates what's driving all of that. The ABCD of fintech. These 4 pillars literally power modern financial ecosystems. You've got A for artificial intelligence, which gives us predictive analytics and smarter decision-making. B for blockchain, the bedrock of secure, decentralized transactions. C is cloud computing, offering the immense, flexible scale needed to operate globally. And D, data analytics, feeding us those real-time insights. Put them all together, they power everything from the banking app in your pocket to massive algorithm-driven investment engines. But here's the flip side to all that awesome innovation. 65%. Let that sink in. That is the staggering rate of ransomware attacks in financial services recorded in 2024. That's the highest level since we even started tracking this stuff. This sector holds the world's wealth, so naturally, it's an incredibly lucrative prime target. Part 2, application threat landscape, the inherent risk. Now, what's really interesting here is that the exact same tech making fintech so great, those interconnected APIs, the massive cloud infrastructures, they massively expand our attack surface. It leaves us exposed to some truly devastating vulnerabilities right at the application layer. Take a look at these two. On the left, SQL injection. This is where an attacker inserts malicious commands into an unprotected database field. It goes straight for the data, allowing them to steal it or even delete it entirely. Then, on the right, OS command injection. This one's even scarier because it bypasses the data and goes straight for the underlying infrastructure. Attackers inject raw operating system commands, which can literally lead to a complete server takeover. One hits your data, the other steals the whole machine. And look, these aren't just theoretical mistakes you read about in a coding textbook. SQL injection alone makes up 23.4% of all web application attacks worldwide. It's a primary culprit behind some of the biggest data breaches we've ever seen. When input validation fails at the application level, the fallout is immediate, it's widespread, and it's severe. So who's actually pulling the strings on these attacks? Looking at the motivations for 2026, it's a pretty complex web. Cybercrime sits at 26%, which makes sense. That's your standard financial gain, stealing credentials, ransomware, things like that. But look at espionage, dominating at a massive 54%. What we're seeing here are highly organized, state-sponsored advanced persistent threat groups, or APTs. They aren't just after a quick buck. They're targeting financial capital to steal intellectual property or, even worse, to destabilize entire national economies.
Part 3, building security with DevSecOps, the mitigation.
So the crucial point is this. When the risks at the application layer are this extreme, security absolutely cannot be bolted on at the very end like an afterthought. Enter DevSecOps. This is a complete game changer. It integrates security tools and practices directly into the software development pipeline from day one. It creates a culture of shared responsibility across development, security, and operations. By building security right into the CI/CD pipeline, organizations make sure that moving at the lightning speed of fintech doesn't mean taking on unmanaged, catastrophic risk. How do you actually put that into practice, though? Well, organizations turn to globally recognized frameworks like the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0. This gives you a structured, risk-based playbook for managing cyber resilience. First, you identify your assets and risks. Then, you protect them with safeguards. Think strict access controls and secure coding. Next, you set up systems to detect events the second they happen. You have a solid plan to respond when things go sideways. And finally, you know exactly how to recover and get services back online fast. It's an ongoing, proactive loop. I really want to hammer home a critical concept from our materials. A security baseline is not aspirational, it is an enforceable minimum. Practices like secure coding, input validation to block those SQL injections, and system hardening, they aren't just nice to haves, they are absolute musts. Think of fintech like a high-performance race car. You can't safely push that car to its top speed without having the absolute best brakes and safety harnesses installed first. Part 4. Navigating Regulatory Challenges, the Rules of the Game. With systemic risks this high, governments are obviously stepping in, and the rulebook is getting thick. By 2026, we are looking at a massive convergence of global mandates. We've got the EU's DORA and IS2, New York's incredibly strict NYDFS Part 500, the SEC rules, and PCI DSS across the board. If you're running a fintech today, you can't just pick one set of rules to follow. Your systems have to satisfy all of these frameworks at the exact same time, which, as you can imagine, is a massive operational headache. Let's move to this breakdown and see how this builds. Because what happens if you just ignore these rules? The real-world consequences are brutal. The SEC demands incident reporting within 4 business days, no exceptions. NYDFS requires universal multi-factor authentication and can slap you with fines up to $250,000 per day for noncompliance. DORA demands rigorous third-party risk management and resilience testing. And GDPR? Violating that can cost you up to 4% of your global annual turnover. The financial and operational hits for ignoring compliance are just staggering. Because the pressure is so intense, successful fintechs have to evolve. They need to ditch the old maturity-based approach, where compliance was basically just a checkbox exercise, relying on outdated perimeter security. Instead, they have to adopt a proactive, risk-based approach. This means treating cybersecurity not just as an IT annoyance, but as a core enterprise risk control portfolio. You're actively managing your unique, dynamic risks in real time to guarantee true operational resilience. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. With fintech moving at absolute warp speed, fueled by AI, blockchain, cloud, and data, and threat actors getting more sophisticated by the minute, will the financial sector's rapid innovation ultimately outpace its ability to secure itself? It's a huge, provocative question, and honestly, it's one that you, as our future business and IT leaders, are going to have to figure out. Think hard about how you'll use DevSecOps and risk management to make sure the answer is a resounding no. Thanks for joining me today, and keep learning.